Environmental Science, Unit 5, Environmental Pollution. Main topic of this chapter are air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, soil pollution, thermal pollution, nuclear hazards, solid waste management and different case studies like Ganga Action Plan, Delhi pollution, plastic waste management rules, etc. Air pollution. So air pollution is a situation when considerable amount of gas enter in our environment and thereby pose risk to human life as well as risk to the life of other organisms. So in simple terms we can say that air pollution is addition of certain substances in concentration that may cause undesirable effect on living organism and environment. Air pollutants are those substances which cause unwanted and undesirable effect on human beings when they enter in atmosphere. So broadly, air pollutants can be divided into two types. Gaseous air pollutants, if they are gaseous in nature, for example, oxides of sulfur like SO2, SO3. Oxides of nitrogen like N2O, that is nitrous oxide, and NO2, nitrogen dioxide. Carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide are also gaseous air pollutant. Air pollutant can also be classified under solid air pollutants. So if substances which cause undesirable effect in human life when they are present in high concentration in air and they are also solid in nature, then we call them as solid air pollutants. For example, dust, soot, aerosol, PM2.5, that means particulate matter below the size of 2.5 micrometer, PM10, that means particulate matter below the size of 10 micrometer. Air pollutants can also be classified into two other categories, primary air pollutant and secondary air pollutant. Now primary air pollutants are those which are directly released from industries like sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide. Secondary air pollutants are those which are formed after reaction in primary air pollutants. For example, when sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxides mix with rain, then a new compound is formed which is known as acid rain. Same way, when smoke mixes with fog, then a new compound is formed, that is smog. So the main difference between the two is primary air pollutant is formed directly through the release from industries or vehicle, whereas secondary air pollutants are formed after reaction in the primary air pollutants. Air quality standards have been prescribed by Central Pollution Control Board. Now, air quality standard is calculated based on 8 pollutants, that means particulate matter, ozone, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, lead and ammonia. So, based on these pollutants, we analyze what is the quality of air. So, according to the index, if the quality is between 0 to 50, then air is considered to be good. If the parameter of air quality index is between the value of 51 to 100, then we consider air to be satisfactory. And if the pollutant load is very high, then air quality index can also reach 401 to 500 limit. And then in that case, the air is categorized as severe. There are two main sources of air pollution, natural sources and anthropogenic sources. Natural sources include volcanic eruptions, forest fire, pollen, etc. While a major share of air pollutant is because of anthropogenic sources like vehicle, industries, cutting down of trees, etc. Anthropogenic air pollution include vehicular pollution, and from vehicles carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides and hydrocarbons are released. On other hand, there are different industries like thermal power plant or metallurgical industries which release fly ash and sulfur because they are based on burning of coal. Large amount of air pollutant also exists within our home, and this category is known as indoor air pollution. So for example, the bricks and cement of our houses release radon gas. Burning of fuel wood, which is still practiced in many rural areas, release large amount of carbon monoxide. Cigarette smoking can lead to benzoapyrene. So air pollution can cause severe health impact. Our respiratory system has a capability to filter large particles through our nose and mucus, but there are still gaseous pollutants and small particles which can go very deep inside our lungs. And then a person may suffer from respiratory disorders like cancer, asthma, bronchitis and emphysema. So there is a possibility of lung cancer, there is a possibility in difficulty of breathing, and sometimes even the fine branches of lungs may block, and this situation is known as bronchitis. Moreover, these pollutants can also affect air sac, which are the fine small sacs, and they are responsible for trapping oxygen, and then oxygen is transported to different other parts of our body. So these air sac may swell and may get irritated, and this condition is known as emphysema. So there is a possibility of all kind of respiratory diseases because of air pollutants. Primarily, we can say that all the gases are contributing towards respiratory diseases. Carbon dioxide is the gas, or we can say carbon dioxide as well as carbon monoxides are those gases which can mix with hemoglobin of our blood and can form carboxyhemoglobin. In such situation, a person may collapse, or sometimes it may also lead to the death of the person. Sulfur dioxide is the gas which is primarily responsible for bronchitis, that means blocking of capillaries of lung. Nitrogen dioxide leads to bronchitis as well as emphysema, that is swelling of air sac. Gases like benzene and formaldehyde can cause DNA mutations and cancer. Not only this, air pollution can also affect plants. Plants also undergo gaseous exchange through very small cells which are known as stomata present in the leaf. And if they are exposed to a high level of pollutant, then there is a chance that these stomata may be worst affected and the gaseous exchange may be disrupted. So, in such scenario, we find number of diseases in plant. For example, chlorosis. Chlorosis is the disease in which leaf lose the chlorophyll pigment and turn yellow in color. Necrosis is the disease in which the leaves develop tissues which are totally dead. So black spots are formed on the surface of leaf. Epinasty is rolling down or curling of leaf in presence of high pollutants. Air pollution can also impact aquatic life because these air pollutants can mix with rainwater and can come down in lakes or river. In that scenario, fishes and other aquatic animals may also die. Air pollutants also cause impact on material. For example, our Taj Mahal had turned yellow in color because of acid rain. Apart from this, sulfur dioxide affects fabric, metal, paint. Ozone can cause cracking of rubber. Oxides of nitrogen can affect cotton and rayon fibers. We can control air pollution to a certain extent by following these measures. First, we need to do environment impact assessment. Environment impact assessment is the method by which we analyze impact of a possible project like industry, mining, etc. on environment. So before any project is given approval, they all are screened on the grounds of environment. And if government feels that there will be high amount of pollution or high amount of negative impact on environment because of a project, then they simply reject such projects. So EIA should be done accurately and they should be implemented correctly at all levels. Second, since coal release high amount of fly ash in the environment, therefore we should try to use low sulfur coal. We can also control industrial pollution by using technology. For example, we can use cyclone separator. Cyclone separator is the equipment in which we pass dirty air and rotate it at a very high speed. With this, heavy particles like dust, they settle down at the bottom and clean air is collected from the other side. Apart from cyclone separators, there are number of other technological devices. For example, electrostatic precipitator. In electrostatic precipitator, dirty air is passed from one side and the dust particles, they are attracted to these electrically charged rods. After trapping of all the dust particles, the pure air can be collected from the other end. Apart from technology, we need to control vehicular pollution, and this can be done by regular pollution check. We need to use fuel efficient engine in the vehicle. We need to promote public transport in order to control air pollution. And lastly, we need to plant more trees. We can also reduce air pollution by shifting towards the renewable energy sources like solar energy, wind energy, etc. Case study number 1 related to air pollution is Bhopal disaster. On 2nd to 3rd December 1984, one of the worst industrial disaster happened in our country, and this is very well known as Bhopal gas disaster. So in Madhya Pradesh, right in the center, there is Bhopal city, and in Bhopal city, Union Carbide Corporation, a multinational company responsible for pesticide synthesis, opened its subsidiary branch with the name UCIL, that is Union Carbide India Limited. And this branch was involved in production of pesticides like LD-Carb and Sevin. So the pesticides were produced by using methyl isocyanate. On the date of 2nd to 3rd December 1984, methyl isocyanate came in contact with water and released large amount of toxic fume, which affected number of people. In fact, according to the survey of 1984, 3,000 people lost their lives and 30,000 people were physically injured, and many other developed diseases and crippling disorders, eye diseases, etc. So this is the case that air pollution can lead to even worse disasters. Not only this, in this case, it's very difficult and the legal battle was very complex, and the people or the victim who were affected because of Bhopal gas disaster, they are still waiting for the justice to be delivered. Second case study is related to Delhi air pollution. Delhi city witnessed air pollution, and large amount of smog generally is present during the winter time period. So the amount of pollution load expands and it increases to a very high level, especially during winters. The reason why Delhi is so polluted in winter is because of northwesterly winds. So due to northwesterly winds, pollutants even from Afghanistan and Pakistan enter in Delhi city. Secondly, in winters, the speed of wind is very low, and therefore the dispersal of pollutant is not that much. Moreover, winter is the time period when farmers of the neighboring states like Punjab and Haryana burn their farm residues like paddy stubble. So 17 to 26% of pollutant from neighboring states enter in our city during winter time period. Vehicular pollution is another problem in Delhi, and 20% of PM 2.5 is released due to vehicular pollution. Dust pollution contributes to 56% of PM 10. Now these particulate matter below the size of 10 micrometer and particulate matter below the size of 2.5 micrometer are highly dangerous because they can go deep inside our lung and can also travel into our bloodstream, thereby can cause cancer and many other diseases. Delhi become extremely polluted in winter because of the phenomena that is thermal inversion. In the normal condition, it's the warm air which rises up and disperses pollutant during summers. But in winter, the situation is different. In winter, cold air is trapped just very near to us, and this cold air is heavy. It cannot disperse pollutants so easily, and therefore there are more cases of asthma, bronchitis and other respiratory disorders in winter because pollutants are present around us in much more higher concentration due to thermal inversion. We can control pollution of Delhi, and number of steps have been taken in this regard. Firstly, government had imposed ban on firecracker, and nowadays government is also promoting the concept of green cracker. Ban on 10 years of old diesel vehicle have been implemented. Green tax has been imposed on commercial vehicles which enter in our city, Delhi city, from other states, and if those commercial vehicles are based on outdated technology, then they have to pay the fine, which is known as green tax. To control pollution, temporary measures are also taken into consideration. For example, odd-even scheme was implemented in 2016. So odd-plated vehicles were allowed on odd date and even-plated vehicles were allowed on even dates. Second part of this chapter is water pollution. So water pollution is addition of certain substances in water that may alter physical, chemical and biological property of water and may further result in undesirable effect on living organism and environment. So whenever water has such chemicals in it which can change the property of water and can pose threat to the living organism, that situation is known as water pollution. There are two sources of water pollution: point source and non-point source. Point source are easy to trace because we know the point from where the water is becoming polluted. However, non-point sources are very difficult to be traced because in non-point source there are multiple sources involved in polluting river resource. For example, here in this diagram, non-point source is depicted like this, that here the water is becoming polluted because of the effluents from home, from cities, from suburban development projects, animal feedstock, cropland, forestry, etc. Water pollution can also be classified in two ways. If water of ground is polluted, that means underground water resource is polluted, then we call it as groundwater pollution. If surface water like river is polluted, then we call it as surface water pollution. Groundwater pollution is caused by industrial effluents, mining, dumping of garbage, etc. Surface water pollution is caused by sewage, industrial effluents, synthetic detergent, agrochemical, oil, waste heat. Waste heat means when any industry discharge water at very high temperature. So all these factors are responsible for water pollution. Water pollution can have number of effects, and the first effect is less dissolved oxygen. So wherever water is polluted, amount of oxygen dissolved in water will go down, and in that case the high pollutant present in water along with less dissolved oxygen will pose threat to aquatic life. So dissolved oxygen is the amount of oxygen present in water at given temperature and atmospheric pressure. So in healthy water, the DO, that is dissolved oxygen, is high. In unhealthy water, dissolved oxygen is low. So less oxygen and high pollutant can lead to death of aquatic species. Water pollution can also create a serious effect, that is increase in pathogen. So sewage, discharge or domestic waste can increase the number of virus and bacteria present in water, and thereby if it is consumed by human beings, then people may be affected by cholera, dysentery, typhoid and jaundice. Third effect of water pollution is eutrophication. So when excessive amount of agrochemicals like fertilizer and pesticide enter in water body, then those chemicals act as a source of nutrients for algae, and thereby entire water body may get covered with algal growth. And if algae is more, then the inner aquatic species like fish will definitely die. Fourth effect of water pollution is on biological oxygen demand. So biological oxygen demand is the amount of oxygen which is required by bacteria to break organic waste into simpler form. So more the polluted water means more organic waste present in it, and in that case bacteria will require more oxygen to degrade organic waste. So BOD will increase. So polluted water has more biological oxygen demand, and generally it leads to death of species because insufficient breaking down of organic waste can affect the life cycle of many other living forms. Next effect is on biomagnification. So biomagnification is a process by which chemical increase in concentration through food chain. So we know all animals are interrelated. So even water pollutants, if they enter in water, then those pollutants are not isolated. Even we or as a human beings may get affected because of such water pollutants. For example, the amount of water may have a very low amount of DDT, but gradually it increase and magnify in aquatic food chain through zooplankton, minnow and needlefish, and finally when these fish are consumed by birds, then the amount of DDT in bird was observed to be very high, that means around 10 ppm. And in that case, generally birds are unable to survive, and whenever they reproduce, their eggs become very weak and eggshell is very weak, and therefore entire life cycle of bird gets affected. Another example of biomagnification is Minamata disease. So on the coastal area of Japan, there is a Minamata Bay. For a long period of time, factories were discharging their industrial effluents directly in this Minamata Bay. As a result of this, the area, that means water body Minamata Bay, become extremely polluted. Then many of the fishes which consumed those toxic amount of chemicals, especially rich in mercury, then these fishes were also contaminated. Gradually, these fishes were consumed by human beings, and human beings were severely affected with a disease which is known as Minamata disease. So this is also a classic example that chemicals which are present in water can end up in human beings through food chain, and they can magnify in fact through food chain. Second example of biomagnification is Itai disease. This disease also happened in Japan. So in Japan, farmers of Japan unknowingly used toxic industrial effluent for irrigating their crop field, and when these crop, that means paddy, was consumed by human beings, then the amount of cadmium was very high. So this cadmium toxicity resulted in crippling disorder in many human beings, and this disease is known as Itai disease. So Itai disease is basically due to cadmium poisoning as a result of contaminated water used in irrigation. Water pollution can also affect baby. So nitrate, if it is high in water, then it may lead to blue baby syndrome. So the color of baby turn blue because the oxygen supply in hemoglobin considerably get reduced due to the presence of nitrates. Excessive amount of fluorine can also result in discoloration of teeth, and this disease is known as fluorosis. We can control water pollution by using less agrochemicals, by using nitrogen fixing plants instead of fertilizers, by using more and more of biopesticides which are very safe, for example neem extract. And we can reduce water pollution by planting more trees. We can also treat water. The water which is already contaminated can be made purified by using certain technical device. So these days all industries need to have these water treatment plant in their premises. So in this water treatment plant, dirty water is first screened through filters in order to remove solid waste. Then later on, in the great chamber, water is rotated at very high speed so that dust particles, sand, etc. settle down and clean water can be collected on the top. So this water, which appears to be clean, might be having lot of other organic waste. So this primary clarifier is then passed to the secondary treatment. So the water collected from primary treatment is subjected to aeration tank. In aeration tank, excessive amount of oxygen is passed through so that bacteria can degrade organic waste and can reduce biological oxygen demand. Later on, after all the organic waste is decomposed by bacteria, then this water is collected as a secondary clarifier. This entire process of secondary treatment is repeated multiple times, and finally the purified water is collected. This water, which is also known as secondary effluent because it has just passed secondary treatment, is then subjected to tertiary treatment. In tertiary treatment, chlorine, ozone, UV radiations are given to the water so that any amount of impurity or bacteria may be removed. Case study number 1 related to water pollution. Arsenic pollution in Bengal and Bangladesh. So in many places of Bengal and Bangladesh, arsenic contamination was observed. There were areas which were moderately affected, and there were also areas which were severely affected. In this arsenic pollution, it has been observed that all the people who have consumed contaminated water in Bengal and Bangladesh developed black spots on their body, and there were also tumor-like outgrowth in their body. So this disease affected person's health, as well as there were social issues related to people. When people developed all these spots, then they were quite isolated from the society. Many ladies were unable to get married after developing these diseases. So it was linked that arsenic pollution was more in the districts like Murshidabad, 24 North Pargana, etc. Later on, it was realized that some amount of water collected through tube well was contaminated. Later on, these tube wells were marked with a red color in order to make everyone aware that here in this tube well, contaminated water is coming out. Some people also believed that this arsenic pollution was because of using contaminated water for irrigation of paddy crop. Case study number 2, Ganga Action Plan. Ganga is a river which flows from Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh and then finally goes into Bay of Bengal. So on its course, it gets extremely polluted in the place like Kanpur, Varanasi, etc. So Ganga Action Plan was developed in order to clean Ganga. So we all know that Ganga is extremely polluted because of sewage, high sediment load, more and more industrial discharge, cremation or burning of dead body on the bank of river, agrochemicals. So all these are pollutants which pollute Ganga river. So in 1985, Ministry of Environment and Forest started Ganga Action Plan to control and improve the water quality of Ganga. So the main objective of Ganga Action Plan are: first, to do all-round environmental improvement; second, to install sewage treatment plant unit; third, to provide basic sewage treatment, and also to use production of energy, and to use any kind of sewage and material present in toxic level in the form of manure, or to do some kind of pisciculture, aquaculture and irrigated treated water. Fourth point is related to economic benefits to local people. So it was decided that Ganga will be made clean, and all around Ganga there will be local people who can earn economic benefit by recreation and other sports activity. In 2014, Namami Gange project was launched, and it was basically an integrated conservation mission, and there were two objectives. First objective was to reduce pollution, conservation, and secondly to rejuvenate national river, that is Ganga. The main idea behind this program is to develop sewage treatment plant, to have river surface cleaning, to improve water quality and to have more and more biodiversity, afforestation and public awareness. Thermal pollution. Whenever plants like nuclear plant, thermal power plant, they use cold water in their industrial area to keep their machines functional. In that scenario, large amount of heat is trapped in their water. So when these industries discharge hot water directly in river water body, then that kind of pollution is known as thermal pollution. So thermal pollution basically means addition of water at very high temperature in river or any other water stream, which can pose severe threat to aquatic life, is thermal pollution. So in that case, if water at high temperature is discharged directly in river, then it will impact the dissolved oxygen. So in that case, dissolved oxygen will become less. Toxicity of any chemical which is already present in river water body will be more toxic, or we can say toxicity will increase. Third point is that addition of hot water can change composition of flora and fauna. So temperature sensitive species may get wiped out, and totally there will be a change in plants and animals. Next point is that at high temperature every species undergo high metabolic rate, and in the scenario when there is high metabolic rate and less oxygen, then aquatic species will be affected, and sometimes it may lead to their death. So it may lead to the death of fish and may also affect fish migration in water. We can control thermal pollution by using following devices. First, cooling pond. In cooling pond, hot water is kept for a short period of time in a pond, and once the heat is lost to the environment, then it is allowed to be discharged in river. Second is spray pond. Spray pond is another technique by which we can reduce the water temperature and then we can discharge the water in river. So in this case, hot water is made to pass through multiple fountains So the nozzle of the fountain release hot water, and gradually this method helps in reduction of temperature. So cool water is collected and it is discharged in river. Thermal pollution can also be controlled by using wet cooling tower and dry cooling tower. In wet cooling tower, we pass hot water in the chamber. Cool air is passed from the bottom. So as soon as hot water is sprinkled from the top, cool air will make the temperature to go down. So then water temperature will lower down and cool water is collected from this end. In dry cooling tower, we have hot water which is made to pass through pipeline system. So both the tower differ in one basic thing. First, in wet cooling tower, hot water is sprinkled from the top, but in dry cooling tower, we have sophisticated pipelines through which hot water is made to pass. So hot water is passed through pipeline and cool air is passed from the bottom. So when cool air strikes these pipelines, then automatically water temperature will go down and thereby cool water is collected from the other end. Soil pollution. Soil can be polluted through number of ways. So domestic waste, industrial waste, agricultural waste, animal excreta, radioactive substances, they are all the reason behind soil pollution. So if soil is polluted, then human health will be affected because our crops definitely grow on the soil, and if soil is polluted, those chemicals will enter into plant and thereby through biomagnification human health may be affected. Secondly, high level of pollutant also damage soil fertility and thereby soil lose its productivity. Polluted soil also affect the number of bacteria and plants present in it. So soil flora and fauna will also be affected. Soil pollution can also lead to eutrophication. So sometimes the chemicals which are added to soil, for example fertilizers or pesticide, they can get washed away with rain and may join nearby water stream. So nearby water stream may get overfilled with these chemicals and may proliferate the growth of algae. And if algae will be more, then inner aquatic organisms will die because there will be shortage of supply of sunlight as well as oxygen. Next point is that soil pollution can also lead to biomagnification, which means that chemicals like radioactive substance, if present in soil, can also magnify through food chain. So these substances may enter into plant, and through plant they may go into herbivore, then carnivore, and even they may reach us. We can control soil pollution by using effluents properly. So effluents should be discharged only after treatment process. Second point is solid waste should be properly collected and disposed of. It should not be thrown anywhere. Third point, from the waste, useful substances should be created. So we should try to avoid dumping of waste as much as possible. Biodegradable waste can definitely be used for compost or biogas manufacturing. Cattle dung should be used for biomethane regeneration. We can also degrade biodegradable substances by using microbes. Noise pollution. So sound is mechanical energy from vibrating source. Unpleasant sound and unwanted sound is known as noise. Sound can be measured in two units. We can measure the frequency of sound by calculating the number of compressions, that means whenever sound waves come close to each other, and rear fractions, when sound waves move apart. So number of these compressions and rear fractions in unit time can be calculated, and this is known as frequency. Unit of frequency is hertz. Sound can also be measured in terms of decibel. Decibel gives us an idea about the loudness. So decibel unit can be calculated by using this parameter, that is sound pressure level formula. In sound pressure level formula, we use logarithmic equation and thereby we calculate the sound pressure by comparing it with a reference pressure. So according to the loudness of sound, that means decibel scale, we can analyze that sound loudness of rustling leaf is very low, just 10 decibel. But on the other hand, if we consider motorcycle, food blender, they emit large amount of sound, around 90 decibel of sound. Moreover, loudness of sound is extremely high when we consider jet plane. Jet planes have loudness of 150 decibel unit. So there is a tolerate unit, which is, or we can say threshold unit of 140 decibel, beyond which a person may lose the ability to hear completely. Sources of noise pollution are, for example, first, mode of transportation. So vehicle, railway, aeroplane all emit large amount of noise. Other sources are industrial operation, construction activities, ceremony or any function, for example, social function, religious function, election campaign, etc. Noise pollution can interfere with communication. A person who is exposed to noise can permanently lose the ability to hear properly. Sometimes this is a temporary hearing disorder. That means for a short time a person is unable to hear, and when the source of sound is removed, then person return back to its normal state. But at times, if a person is exposed to high level of noise for a long period of time, then he or she may lose the ability to hear permanently. Apart from this, high noise pollution can lead to hypertension, insomnia, digestive disorder, behavioral changes, etc. So noise pollution is especially very high during Diwali. Though Diwali is a festival of light, but during Diwali we also notice high level of noise pollution. To control Diwali noise pollution, Rule 89 has been added in Environmental Protection Act of 1986. And according to this rule, manufacture and sale of firecracker which generate noise of more than 125 decibel is strictly prohibited. Second, there is prohibition of burning firecracker in silent zones, for example, hospitals, educational institutes, etc. Plus, firecrackers are allowed to be burned only between 6 pm to 10 pm. Solid waste management. We have number of types of solid waste, for example, domestic waste, industrial waste, for example, chemical, acid, alkali, bottles, etc. Biomedical waste, for example, syringes, medical pills, etc. Construction waste like debris, stone, dust, etc. Horticulture waste include fruit, vegetable, peel, etc. Radioactive waste, for example, nuclear waste, etc. So there are large number of solid waste, and with increasing human population, this amount of solid waste is increasing day by day. So the effect of solid waste are following. It may lead to unhygienic condition. It may spoil the beauty of the site. Soil productivity or soil fertility may go down because of dumping of solid waste. These solid waste can sometimes penetrate deep inside underground level and may contaminate groundwater. Hazardous waste, they can mix up with other waste and can generate toxic gases like furan, polychlorinated biphenyl, and these are highly dangerous and can cause cancer. At present, we are using following three methods to treat solid waste: landfill site, composting, incinerator. Landfill site are especially those places on the outskirts of city where we dump the waste of any city. So the site is quite similar, and in Delhi there are three landfill sites: Okhla, Bhalsawa and Ghazipur. So according to the scientific protocol, these landfill sites should be constructed according to this rule. First, a pit is created deep inside ground. This pit is then lined with a plastic liner or any substance which is impermeable. This is done in order to avoid any leakage to the groundwater. Then the waste is dumped, and this waste, after it is dumped and after the pit is filled, the pit should be covered with the help of sand, stone, gravel, etc. Now it is quite common that these landfill sites release large amount of methane and other gases. So gas recovery systems are also developed in such pits. So this is the actual landfill site protocol, but it is hardly being followed in our country. We already have overfilled landfill areas. Second is composting. Composting is a way by which we can treat biodegradable waste and can convert it into manure. Third is incinerator. Incinerator means a chamber or furnace in which we burn waste so that the volume of waste can be reduced. So we have these three methods, but all these three have limitations. For example, landfill sites are overfilled with garbage and we don't have enough space to be created as landfill site. Moreover, the condition of landfill site is extremely unpleasant, unhygienic, and groundwater is probably already polluted. Composting has a limitation that it can be done only for biodegradable waste. And in incinerator, the limitation is that when we burn the waste, large amount of toxic gases are released. For example, furan, dioxin, and large amount of fly ash is also released. So workers who are working in incinerator plant are subjected to high level of pollution load and may develop respiratory disorders. Therefore, the best practice is to reduce, reuse and recycle the waste as much as possible. Case study number 1. Love Canal tragedy. Love Canal was the site which was proposed by William Love in the area of New York. So in Love Canal tragedy, Love Canal was a canal which was partially constructed, and the plan was to interconnect Niagara Falls with Lake Ontario in order to have better water supply. But when this proposal was put forward, then all the financiers and people who were involved in financing this canal became bankrupt due to financial constraint and economic depression going on at that time in America. So basically this Love Canal was never completely constructed. So the site was sold by William Love to Hooker Chemical Plastic Corporation, and for a long period of time this chemical corporation was dumping its waste. So from 1942 to 1953, Hooker Chemical used this site for dumping its waste. And later on in 1953, what Hooker Chemical did, they covered this site with clay, sand, stone, etc. and then sold it to the Board of Elementary Education. So the site where chemicals were dumped continuously for 10 years was then sold to Board of Elementary Education in order to construct schools. So yes, schools were built on the same site. But then in 1976, many residents of that area started complaining about foul smell. Children who were playing in the school, they also developed severe chemical burns. So it was clear that there was leaking of chemicals into sewer, basement of home and school playground. About 26 toxic organic compounds were identified. Later on, Love Canal site was basically covered with clay and leaking waste was also treated by some technical devices, and all the families were shifted to new site. So many people were relocated after Love Canal tragedy. Case study number 2 is related to Plastic Waste Management Rule 2016. So we all know that large amount of plastic is dumped every day, and plastic is a big problem because it's non-biodegradable in nature. So in 2016, India has implemented this rule which is known as Plastic Waste Management Rule, and according to rule, it is the responsibility of producer to take back plastic. That means any producer, company, CEO, anyone who is manufacturing the product based on plastic has the responsibility to collect it back. In this rule, it has also been mentioned that plastic should be used appropriately, and if possible, it should be used in constructing roads. Moreover, the main emphasis was on phasing out non-recyclable plastic. And under this rule, it was written that shopkeepers who want to sell products by using plastic bag or by giving plastic bag to the customers have to pay the fine, and the fine is around 48,000 per year rupees. So rupees 48,000 per year is given to local body so that shopkeeper can continue providing bags to the customer, and local body use this amount for eco-friendly activities. Nuclear hazards. So radioactive substances are extremely dangerous. So radioactive atoms, they are generally unstable and they break easily, giving lot of energy and also generating certain particles. Apart from this, high amount of radiation is leaked out. So there are three kinds of radiations which are generally seen from the radioactive substances: alpha, beta and gamma. Alpha radiations are not much penetrative, but they can cause skin cancer if they are released in environment. Beta radiations, they have much more penetrative power and they can penetrate deep inside our body. Gamma can penetrate further deep inside our body. So all these three are high energy radiations, out of which alpha can cause skin cancer. Beta and gamma have more penetrative power and thereby can damage our internal organs. So radioactive substances are released from two sources: natural and anthropogenic. Natural means outer space, soil, air, rock, water, and anthropogenic means nuclear power plant, diagnostic kits, laboratories. So radioactive substances have following impact. First, it may lead to genetic damage. That means these radiations, alpha, beta, gamma, they can mutate the genes and chromosome in our DNA, in our cells, and thereby these diseases can be transferred to next generation as well. So when genes are affected, definitely those altered genes will go into the next progeny. Moreover, these radioactive substances can also affect somatically, or they may create somatic damage. So the body cells may be affected. For example, these radiation may lead to severe burn injury. They may lead to miscarriage, eye cataract and cancer. So it is necessary that we establish nuclear power plants at right place. And we need to be very careful while establishing them, and we need to consider long-term and short-term impact. One disaster which is very well known is Fukushima nuclear disaster. So Fukushima nuclear reactor was just on the coastal area. So when earthquake of more than 9 magnitude struck the place, Pacific Ocean, then huge waves in the form of tsunami, they entered Fukushima Daiichi plant. An entire Fukushima plant was filled with water and there was a huge nuclear leak. So we need to be very careful while establishing these nuclear power plants. Second, in case we are using radioactive substance in laboratories, then we need to dispose the waste very carefully. Case study related to nuclear disaster. Chernobyl nuclear tragedy, April 26, 1986. So, in the country that is Ukraine, which was part of Soviet Union, in the year 1986, there was a major nuclear leak in Chernobyl nuclear power plant. So, Chernobyl nuclear power plant was located in Pripyat city, and because of technical error, there was a nuclear disaster on this date, April 26, 1986. It is believed that nuclear rods, that means uranium rods, were not inserted properly between the control rods in the technical device, and thereby due to this technical error, there was huge chain reaction of nuclear fission. Large amount of energy was released out in the environment. So when this happened, then it is believed that amount of radiations were so high that the temperature increased to more than 2000 degrees Celsius. This temperature was so high that immediately it blew the reactor's roof. Not only this, the reactor roof was around 1000 ton steel concrete lid. It was immediately blew off, and further, fuel and radioactive debris. It was so much in the atmosphere that it covered even the countries like Poland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway. So the nuclear fume of Chernobyl reactor covered this entire area, even the countries of Europe. In this tragedy, 31% died on the first day, 239 people were hospitalized on the first day. Iodine 131 was very high in the environment, and it was ingested through milk, and thereby children were worst affected. So children developed thyroid cancer. More than 2000 people died later, and people suffered from loss of hair, anemia, etc. Pripyat city residents were evacuated. Around 5 lakh Pripyat city residents were evacuated after this incident, and Chernobyl was declared as exclusion zone. So 30 kilometer area around Chernobyl was declared as Chernobyl exclusion zone. With this, we have completed this chapter. Thank you all of you, and all the best.